Lots of people want to ride with you in the limo, but what you want is someone who will take the bus with you when the limo breaks down. This quote from Oprah Winfrey cuts to the heart of my talk, and it relates to a story of how my buddy Aaron took the bus with me. Back when Aaron and I were in college, we'd meet for dinner almost every night. We loved talking about how we'd become psychologists. We'd go into practice together and dreamed up ridiculous, tiny details, including a waiting room with a pool table and a sushi chef, because we were 18 and we were goofballs. I have since learned that would be a very bad idea. After college, he became a psychologist, but I didn't. I was happy for him, but I was in a perpetual state of grief. Many years went by, and on a hot August night, I hit a low point. I woke up at around 2 a.m. with my heart pounding. I went into the ER and learned it was a panic attack. I later realized my panic was caused by me quashing my dream of becoming a psychologist. My career path saddened me daily, but I was married, had a mortgage, a son, and becoming a psychologist seemed impossible. A few months later, Aaron and I were hanging out. I was nearly crying when I mentioned how heartbroken I was that I didn't follow my dream. He said, "Dude, you still can." What ensued was, to put it mildly, a heated discussion. I pushed back hard, but he pushed back harder. He wasn't willing to let my fear kill my dream, but he was willing to push through my resistance, get uncomfortable, and fight for my happiness. His courage and commitment gave me new life. I became a psychologist. I love my work, and it wouldn't have happened without my friend. Friendship is a really big deal, and yet compared to the number of books on romantic relationships, there are few books on friendship. I want to share with you 5 ideas you need to know about adult friendship. In my experience, these 5 ideas can make a big difference in your life. The ideas come from research, my observation as a Silicon Valley psychologist, and my personal experiences with friendship. So here goes. Idea 1, loneliness can be lethal. Let's first look at loneliness. According to a recent survey, 3 out of 5 Americans are lonely. US Surgeon General Dr. Vivek Murthy described loneliness as a public health issue. It can be more predictive of mortality than even obesity. It's important to contrast loneliness from solitude. Solitude is not the same as loneliness. Solitude, which is choosing to be alone, can be restorative and even essential. But loneliness is painful and something no one would ever choose. That said, good relationships improve our health. A Harvard study spanning more than 80 years showed that men lived longer and were happier when they had close relationships. And it wasn't how many relationships they had. Instead, it was the quality of relationships that mattered. Research also shows that social support improves recovery times when we're sick or recovering from medical procedures. Without question, our health improves with good friendships. Idea 2, forget about cryptocurrency for a minute. Invest in friendship. To earn the benefits of friendship, we need to invest by treating our friends as our A-listers, because they are. A-list treatment includes being caring, empathic, honest, reliable, trustworthy, loyal, present, and a good listener. It also means reaching out and showing up. It's a virtuous cycle. The more we invest in friendship, the better people we and our friends become. Friendship shows up a lot as a topic in my office, and here's a story about investing in friendship that comes from an amalgamation of several clients. We'll call him Fred. Fred is a successful venture capitalist and a likable guy, yet he complained of having a void in his life. He said he had no friends. He had lots of connections on social media, and lots of people would be very happy to ride with him in the limo, but nobody would ride the bus with him. Although Fred was a powerful man, he felt powerless to even start to fill the void. He was well educated, but like most of us, he wasn't educated on how important friends could be or how to do friendship. He had friends up through college, but after college, he didn't maintain friendships or grow new ones. He also got a reputation for being a flake, whose only priority was business. Fred was a venture capitalist, a professional investor who didn't invest in friendship. Fred hit rock bottom and decided to change. He began to invest by making time in his calendar for friends. He called them, often with no agenda, just to say hi. He hung out with them. He showed up emotionally, and he showed up on time. He put away his phone when he was with them. And as we worked toward his friendship goals, he'd ask himself, how have I shown up as a friend this week? The result, in Fred's words, the return on his friendship investment was far better than any business investment he'd ever had. We've got to be like Fred. Friendship requires investment. Idea 3, friendship can boost your love life. When we invest in good friendships, our romantic relationships improve. Until a few hundred years ago, we lived in tight-knit communities. You know that saying, it takes a village? Couples therapist Esther Perel talks about how we once had an entire village to count on for all kinds of social needs. Now we tend to place all of those needs onto one person, our significant other. Since we all have a broad spectrum of needs, it's impossible and unreasonable to expect our primary partners to meet them all. While I'm talking to all genders, research suggests that men in particular may struggle to find and maintain friendship. Especially in Western nations, men can be socialized to be independent, which can sabotage their quest for friendship. We see lots of movies with the independent guy, a solitary protagonist, representing an ideal. We glorify a guy whose life recipe results in sadness and loneliness. Men who follow in those footsteps may unintentionally put the burden of all the missing friendships onto their spouses. And regardless of gender, it's uncommon for anyone to appreciate every single aspect of their partner. That's what friends are for. Our romantic relationships benefit from friendship. Idea 4, even superheroes have limits. There are limits to what any friend can provide. Friends are like superheroes with strengths and limits. A friend who's happy to help you move might not be able to do the heavy lifting of emotional support when you go through a tough time. Another friend might be unable or reluctant to help you move, but might shine in supporting you after a breakup. Friendships do better when we know our friends' limits, but sometimes we can gently challenge those limits and discover that our friendship has more elasticity than we thought. That's a great way for friendships to deepen. But if they don't, friendships can still thrive when we accept those limits gracefully. Idea 5, it's a bad idea to spend more time choosing a car than choosing our friends. What's good to think about when choosing friends? It's a good idea to look for people who reflect the person we want to become. We humans are social animals. Studies show that as individualistic as we may think we are, we still tend to conform or be influenced by others. There's truth to the idea that we become the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. So choose friends whose judgment you value. Think about all the times you seek advice from a trusted friend. Our friends become our advisory board and shape how we think. And we need to pay attention as friendships develop. According to research, it takes between 3 to 9 weeks to make a friend, and to make a good friend, about 4 months. But we only really know our friends over time, especially how well they can celebrate with us when we win and how well they support us when we lose. And while it can be fun, easy, and safe to talk about topics like movies, politics, and technology, In close friendships, it's also important to talk about how we are really doing. Can we truly share what's going on in our lives? This takes trust, safety, and vulnerability. Remember in my story how vulnerable I was with Aaron? Because of that vulnerability, I found the courage to make a change. And this is consistent with what Dr. Brené Brown's research has shown. Courage and vulnerability go hand in hand. We can only be courageous if we are willing to be vulnerable. But the payoff can be a stronger friendship and a stronger you. And whomever you choose as a friend, you'll be giving them your most precious and non-renewable resource, your time. You can lose your money and get it back. You can lose your health and get it back. But you can't lose your time and get it back. A good use of time is being in reciprocal relationships with a healthy give and take. You can ask yourself, does the friendship feed me or bleed me? Obviously, you'll want to feel fed by your friendship, meaning nourished or enriched. And you'll want this for your friend too. Even in the best friendship, we may feel bled or depleted at times, but it's important to notice. A great way to discern the fed or bled is by doing what I call the drive-away test. Imagine you've been hanging out with a friend, whether in person, on the phone, or even online. How do you feel driving away or leaving the encounter? Do you feel taller, happier, better, or do you feel deflated, exhausted, or perhaps used? And sometimes, if negative feelings persist, we might have to move on. If this happens, it can be helpful to do so with gratitude for the time you shared. What do we think about at the end of our lives? We think about our relationships, loved ones, family, and yes, friends. As for me, I'm sure I'll reflect on friendships, about Aaron and that epic conversation when he said, "Dude, you still can." The effect of that conversation showed me all 5 things you need to know about adult friendship. My health improved, my investment in friendship paid off. My wife is happier because I'm happier. And even though there are limits since Aaron lives in Hawaii, it's still a great friendship. And for sure, I chose a great friend and advisor. I'll close with the words of Tennessee Williams. Life is partly what we make it, and partly what is made by the friends we choose. And I've got to add, finding a therapist with a pool table and a sushi bar in their waiting room is a long shot. A better bet is this: good friendships can deepen and enrich our lives immensely. Thank you.